In this video, I'll be selecting the most goated survival horror protagonists in gaming history, while also going over each of their respective games. We will be choosing based on only the most scientific parameters like drip, capability, and overall if their game is good. We will get into it now. Make sure to subscribe if this is your type of thing. Survival horror is a unique type of story to write a main character for, as they have to somehow be likable enough to follow through the most horrifying shit ever thought of. They can't be too strong, or you won't feel scared, but they also can't be so weak it makes you think you can survive yourself just by putting on multiple jackets and grabbing a night vision camera. While in real life, you stuff your face in between loading screens with the DoorDash McDonald's burger you didn't tip for instead of driving 10 minutes. Some games strike this balance just by making the character silent or just milquetoast, so you feel more immersed because apparently this is more immersive than just making a good character.
Dead body? Why is everyone dying on me? Who the fuck are you?
But jokes aside, Ethan from Resident Evil isn't all that bad, at least in 7 where his blandness kinda adds a lot to the mystery and dare I say, aura of the setting. And the other characters shine through enough to make you forget you're just playing as your coworker. Alan Wake is a fun one. The way he makes tons of literary references and dramatically narrates gives the game a really fun, but again, mysterious tone as the plot unfolds through his eyes.
He would be knocking on the door with his axe like Nicholson in The Shining.
The way he's a total prick is also amusing. Alan Wake really makes you feel like a depressed, alcoholic writer, which is a W in my book. The way they build up his guilt after he neglects his wife and she disappears also made me want to get to the end and see if she'll leave him. So I thought all the plot elements revolving around that worked pretty well. Also, as a fellow wife neglector, I really appreciated the representation.
Oh, just don't! I don't want to hear it! God damn it, Alice!
It's really just the jank and repetitive gameplay of Alan Wake that gets in the way of it flowing as well as it could, which is solved in folds in Alan Wake 2, which was my favorite game of 2023. It turns up the atmosphere to 11 and balances the two protagonists pretty well. I thought it was a satisfying sequel, a lot less repetitive than the first, with some good puzzles and slow moments. The pace is just really good when compared to the first. Alan himself is also a lot more depressed, but less alcoholic feeling this time due to suffering in an alternate dimension for like 10 years or whatever. His character design in this one is also just a lot more iconic with the John Wick fade and suit. Really good Fortnite skin too.
Fuck you say to me, you little shit!
The added layers to this game definitely put him in the conversation, but unfortunately, I think Alan Wake doesn't touch anyone else on this list, no diddy, due to the sheer power and influence of the rest of these survival horror franchises. And his first game admittedly follows more trends than it creates. I'll have to leave him off the team.
Damn it.
Obviously, if we're talking survival horror, we have to bring up Silent Hill, which unfortunately I have not played, so I'll have to keep it from an outsider's perspective. I have to mention it or I'll get my IP pulled and my entire tri-state area will be nuked with Reddit-branded warheads. The general consensus seems to be 1 through 3 are the most beloved, and I like what I see with the 3 main characters. Their jackets are drippy.
All this design that got me drip.
Although, I'm not sure how I feel about how James looks in the remake. In the original, he looks paler with shadowy, sunken eyes. Very tortured, very good. His look in the remake kind of just feels like I'd be behind him at a Starbucks in Seattle before we both sit in traffic on I-90 to get to our 9-to-5s. I think it's his belt that's really just not doing it for me. Like, the way his shirt is just, like, tucked in, I don't know. And how he looks like he just came back from a $30 visit at the barber shop with how fresh his edges are. I don't think that he looks disheveled or tortured enough to be in Silent Hill. So at least character design wise, I can't really put him ahead of the real goat of survival horror, who he low-key stole his whole flow from, that being Leon Kennedy.
He's the GOAT!
I have to admit I'm a relatively new Resident Evil fan. My first game was 7 and I've been hooked ever since, so my point of reference for Leon came after the remakes. Even so, he is everything you could wish for in a horror protagonist, with 2 and 4 being the best of both worlds, while balancing making you feel afraid but also capable. Resident Evil 2 has an oppressive atmosphere, where my cortisol levels spiked at the mere thought of walking down a hallway I'd already gone down, to unlock an animal-themed door with a corresponding animal-themed key. Peak gaming for sure. You definitely feel the survival aspect of survival horror, Leon still being a rookie, and the game's difficulty reflecting that. It's a great entry point for the series, as you feel just as new to it all as Leon does, but at the same time his competency and epic quips let you know if you lock in, you can master the game mechanics and have a very tense, rewarding experience. Fast forward to RE4, and the difficulty scales from resource management to mastering the game mechanics, training headshots with the kick, choosing which weapons to spec into, and risking exploration for more resources. It's a bit of a bummer that the horror is toned down. I don't really buy into the excuse that you can't make the player feel powerful while also making them scared. I'm hoping they try to experiment with this in RE9 when that eventually drops. If you gave Leon more ammo and a kick in RE2, I think it still would have been a pretty effective horror game, especially with a stalker mechanic like Mr. X. It's all about atmosphere and enemy design. Honestly, a good example of this is The Evil Within, despite all its flaws. It is very janky, and the last handful of chapters really drop in quality, but it does a really good job of balancing feelings of utter hopelessness and despair with small victories and constant progress through upgrades and mastery of gameplay. For example, each chapter will usually throw a new concept or enemy type at you, which works really well in the context of the game, taking place inside of the subconscious of the villain. I remember one chapter. There were suddenly invisible enemies, and I almost stopped playing because of how much of a pain I thought they'd be for the rest of the game. But you quickly realize you can get a read on their location by listening and observing the enemy AI pushing objects out of the way as they walk towards you. This game is full of cool little moments like this and really good enemy designs that make you think on your feet. Its jank also plays into the horror in a way that really gives you the feeling that you are fighting with everything you have to get to the end. The protagonist, Sebastian, is generally uninteresting, but serviceable. I will be leaving him off the team because I wouldn't really want to chill with him, so sorry. The only other protagonist who really competes with Leon, aside from the other characters in this series, might just be Joel from The Last of Us. It's not necessarily because I like him more or that his jacket is tougher, because it's not. I could probably find it at my local vintage pop-up for $60 among other Carhartts with paint stains. The reason he competes is the core of what makes The Last of Us goated in the first place, which is, let's face it, the writing. The Resident Evil story at a certain point is just the director mashing action figures together while on nitrous, which is all well and good. The independent mystery of each game and new bioweapon is always interesting and definitely serviceable. However, it never reaches the heights of something like The Last of Us, which is just a more personal tale, while also excelling in world building. Especially when considering 2, and how it maintains the story with so much gravity while also infusing it into the gameplay by making you think about how much and who you are killing. The physicality of it all and the sound design really just tie it together, being one of the most immersive games in recent memory. While I overall prefer Resident Evil games and the series as a whole, I have to acknowledge that they really haven't grown since 7, at least in my opinion. In fact, as much as I do enjoy 8, it really is more of a regression. The village lores are conceptually interesting, but they don't have the same personal touch of the family from 7. You never really get to pull back their layers aside from subtext and collectibles. Paired with Ethan just barely being a person, it makes it a much less effective experience when the Baker family of 7 were the stars. 8 really just exists as a worse version of RE4 with some cool moments and good character designs. Really the only thing Leon has over Joel as a character is how iconic he is, so unfortunately Joel may have to be on the team instead of Leon. Isaac from Dead Space may seem like another contender, and visually he is definitely iconic. However, Dead Space represents another style of storytelling that I think The Last of Us balances just a bit better. Dead Space goes all in on world building, diving into conspiracy and high concept ideas and aliens like the necromorphs, especially in the later games. The Last of Us has a more easily comprehensible threat, being a zombie apocalypse with a twist, and at its core, it is a personal story between Joel and Ellie, and most of what happens is meant to test their relationship. Additionally, taking place in a familiar world, a lot of the heavy lifting has already been done in terms of building the stakes and establishing the world the characters live in. Dead Space is a bit more ambitious plot-wise, where There are personal elements like his girlfriend and his supposed dementia. However, what really drives the plot forward are more external than internal, which isn't me saying one is better than the other necessarily. They're just two different types of stories, but there's a reason that The Last of Us connects with this audience on a deeper, more emotional level than Dead Space, which is debatable. That should cover all of the most notable survival horror protagonists, at least in the mainstream. Comment down below any other contenders you think may be more goated than Joel or Leon, or if you think Leon should be outshined by Chris or any of the other Resident Evil protagonists. That's all for now. Thanks for watching and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this.